Hey guys, my name is Third Eye, and today I'm gonna be commenting the newest release by the Michael Jackson estate, the 40th anniversary edition of the best-selling album of all time, Thriller, and I'll also give my take on the events and decisions made to promote the highly anticipated return of the King of Pop. But before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you like my videos, and if you have any idea for a future video about music, comment it down below. Well, I'll start by describing you my first reactions and impressions after receiving the news that a brand new Michael Jackson project was arriving. When it came to the releases, the year 2022 was looking pretty alright for the Michael Jackson legacy, definitely better than other years in which terrible projects had dropped. The Michael Jackson musical soundtrack was definitely solid and entertaining, and I had loved the removal of the 3 Jason Malachi tracks off of Michael's first posthumous album, so when the estate met the news that a new project was dropping, I couldn't be more excited. Then, on May 16th, the following image was posted in the official Michael Jackson Instagram account. Oh god, it was just a single picture and there were already so many things to say. First, y'all might disagree with me on this one, but I don't get the hype of celebrating the anniversary of Thriller once more, because it already had been reissued twice until this newer release. Once in 2001, and once again shortly after Michael's passing in 2008. Releasing an anniversary reissue of a classic album posthumously is a totally fine decision in my opinion, but if it already had been done twice before the artist's death, it just seems to me that they're trying to exploit Mike's most popular album as much as they can, rather than celebrating its meaning and importance, and that just seems even more evident if you look at the project in detail. First, let's talk about the original artwork, which, thank the Lord, was changed for the final release. This is in all brutal honesty. I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't say that this is right away a piece of shit. It's horrible. I have the most basic design knowledge and still could make something better than this. It just looks like fucking shit. There's no other way to be sincere about it. It's lazy, simple, horrible, and just not fitting. And listen, if this was for some sort of small event, I guess I could let it slide. But we're talking about the 40th anniversary edition of the best-selling album of all time by one of the greatest and biggest musicians in history. Now, if you take that into account, this was surely an embarrassment. And obviously, for once, I'm not the only one who saw it that way. I mean, just look at what's left of the comment section. The graphic design is embarrassing. Absolutely true. The font.com fonts, I cannot with y'all. True, I'm guessing they used either Canva or Paint for this one. And lastly, my favorite one, and pretty direct, delete this. Not a bad suggestion after all. Well, the logo was changed, but I'm gonna comment on that in a bit, because I also want to talk about the merch that came with the announcement of Thriller 40. Please just look at this and try to take it seriously with me. In all honesty, what the fuck is this supposed to be? $60 for a fleece, 40 for a shirt, and 35 for a hat. All of them with the goofy toilet paper logo printed on them. Who the fuck is gonna buy this? All jokes aside, there is a huge list of reasons on why this is not only a scam, but also a total disrespect towards Michael's legacy, which I don't intend to go through since that'd be going too further away from the project itself and its content, which I'm gonna talk about now. Right when I saw the estate write about the second disc with unreleased songs and demos from the Thriller era, I knew that they would play the fandom full and include the leaked ones which every Michael fan has heard at least a million times by now. And that's exactly what ended up happening, although at least not entirely. The tracklist was announced track by track each and every week starting on September 8th, which is a good idea, I'd say. I mean, it increases the hype, so I guess it's okay. And I also like the idea of making the tracks' titles align to make the number 40, but when it comes to this track list, it becomes impossible not to talk about this font. Seriously, the MJ estate has some weird shit going on with goofy fonts. If not, then somebody please tell me what the fuck this is supposed to mean. Or this. All these aspects just lead the viewer not to take the project seriously, which you definitely don't want for a potential charting success. Tracklist aside, the cover was changed once more to this, which is definitely better but still kind of horrible in my opinion. The background just looks like one of those images you'd see when the TV stopped working or didn't receive any signal. Plus the idea of putting Michael's face in the zero only works for a physical copy in my opinion, not for a cover seen on all digital streaming services. At least the original font was maintained for this one, which is something but still left me really disappointed. And now, tracklist and cover aside, let's talk about Thriller 40's promotion, which you might assume is huge considering that it's a brand new Michael Jackson album and all that. But if you were thinking that way, I assure you're wrong. In fact, it's the poorest and weakest promotion for a posthumous Michael Jackson release so far, I would say. The estate didn't care enough to buy ads, billboards, or to create promotional videos. The only promotional campaign related to Thriller 40 we've seen so far is a few 10-second local promotional spots for television here and there. Not a very efficient way to promote a release this big in my opinion. And apart from that, they organized a little event, which is arguable, in New York City and Düsseldorf called the Michael Jackson Thriller 40 Immersive Experience. These events ran for 3 days and included, quote, set recreations from the iconic short films, fair enough, and an exclusive merch shop featuring music and limited edition Thriller 40 merch. Wow, well if it's as good as the one already available, then I assure you no one's going to care for it. I mean, the organization of events as such is not a bad idea at all. However, they were all announced just a few days prior to the running time, which makes them partially useless. Normally, events like these are announced months before they occur, and in this case, as it was only days, practically no one went, even though the tickets were free, which is just pathetic. This organization, the entire working method of the estate to set up interactive events is just pathetic. Well, even though no one went to the immersive event, even though the cover art looks like shit, even though the tracklist fonts are embarrassing and the original merch as well, the album ended up dropping on November 18th anyway, with no promotion whatsoever to guarantee its success. Now I'm gonna shortly give my opinion on every track and comment on the decision to choose certain songs for the album. The grand opener is Starlight, essentially the demo for Thriller, which would have been an interesting choice if it hadn't been leaked for years online. This track is absolutely nothing new for pretty much everyone in the Michael Jackson community, and the estate is totally aware of that. However, they still decided to choose this one over unheard material. Next is Got the Hots, and in this case I have no complaints. I love this one, I really do. It's funky, it's groovy, it's catchy, and it honestly is all that I was expecting for a Thriller outtake. How damn great it was to hear his voice again on such a good track. It was also leaked a while ago and released as a bonus track on some random forgettable compilation, which is not that great, but in this case I had not listened to it. Even though it's not new for many, it's a great piece in addition to the original album, I gotta say, and the same goes for the following track, Who Do You Know, that I also love pretty much. The guitar on this one is so soothing, the vocals are so delicate and intimate, the lyrics are so touching. I'm blown away by this track, I really am. Again, incredible addition, and surprisingly great for a totally new track that hadn't been leaked before. Next is Carousel, which is a pretty good track, but again leaked since ages ago. In fact, it is one of the most famous unreleased tracks by Michael, so when the fandom saw that it would be released here, they at least hoped for an extended version or a new mix, but nope. Pretty lame to let the fandom down in such a way, and pretty lame to choose this track over others archived as well. Now it's turn for the Behind the Mask original demo, aka an unheard version of an already existing track, and I absolutely love it, even more so than the 2010 remix. That one felt unbearably forced. This version sounds so much more like the authentic Michael singing it, with new lyrics and a pretty futuristic and alternative instrumentation that almost sounds nothing alike to anything on the Thriller album. Great choice, I gotta say. And now I guess I have to talk about Can't Get Out of the Rain, even though I don't want to because I already got tired of only having negative things to say about the album in general. Let's start by saying that this song has nothing to do with the Thriller album and era. It was originally titled You Can't Win and was made as a part of the soundtrack for The Wiz. Y'all remember that movie? So it makes absolutely no sense to include it in here. Plus the song is offensively unfinished. Basically the same 3 bars repeated over and over and an incredibly repetitive melody. Clearly this was never intended to make the cut for an official Mike album, not even as an interlude. I could literally talk for hours about how disrespectful it is to have this song be included in here, but considering the estate's past releases, it's not really something surprising. It's just disappointing at this point. Now let's talk about The Toy, the never heard before demo of the 2010 posthumous track Best of Joy. I mean, it's nice to get new material, but this track just kind of feels exactly like the 2010 version, but more simple and thin. It's basically just a piano with very predictable drums. This one was not really worth putting out in my opinion. Production wise, this track and What a Lovely Way to Go are sort of similar. This one's totally unheard, like the earlier Who Do You Know, which is nice, but god is this one the definition of unfinished. The vocals vocals are very raw. Seems like Michael just recorded these one take as a vocal practice to me. Plus his beatboxing is awfully mixed into the whole thing, which is unfortunate because if worked on enough it could have turned into something similar to Can't Let Her Get Away or Tabloid Junkie. And it's not that I don't like it. The melodies are catchy and the lyrics are touching as well, but the song clearly isn't what it was supposed to. I want to interrupt the short review to clear out a few things related to the release of posthumous demos using this track as a reference. There's this huge debate if any deceased artist track should ever be posthumously remixed, modernized and released. Me personally, I don't have anything against the idea of remixing old tracks to make them modern. I mean, I've expressed many times how much I love the posthumous release Escape, but only as long as these remixes are true to the artist's style and genre. Those who disagree only like to see the work as the artist left it, which is occasionally a great thing too, but that's not the case of unfinished material. It's embarrassing that a song this empty is being published under Michael's name. I even hear it had been remixed by Mark Ronson intentionally for the Michael album, but never released, and I would have honestly preferred to hear a newer version with a decent remix rather than this. Now let's return to the track-by-track review to talk about the song Sunset Driver, another one already released in a million different compilations, and another incorrect choice since it was actually a track meant for Offthewall, not Thriller. See, at this point I'm just repeating myself because the estate keeps on making the same damn mistakes over and over. And finally, the closer, She's Trouble, which might as well be my favorite track in the entire thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. It contains possibly one of the catchiest melodies in a Michael Jackson track ever, and the lyrics honestly do it for me here. The indecision of having sexual tension with a person you might think will do you eventually wrong, and being so unsure about the mind state and intentions is such an interesting idea to see Michael dig into. Again, this one had been leaked for ages, but I hadn't listened to it until just now, and as with Got the Hots, I'd consider this an essential release for the record even though it had been leaked. And that's about it. 2 new tracks and 2 unheard demos of 2 already released ones, which means less than half of the record was new material. A pretty pathetic amount considering that it's the first release of new material in 8 years since Escape, and that if it takes the same amount of time that it took them to release new stuff, we won't be hearing any new material until 2030. And I might also add that, much to the fandom's disappointment, the disc 2 of Thriller 40 did not include 2 fan-favorite unreleased tracks from the era, Hot Street and Nightline. I feel like this was the perfect opportunity too, but after this I'm afraid those 2 might not release in very long. What a pity, cause they're great. And now that the album is reviewed, I'm gonna go through further critique on the additional material released with this anniversary edition. First, you guys probably noticed that they released a little lyric video for the original album's opener, which is not a bad idea, plus the lyric video itself is pretty cute, but considering that it's accompanying a release with unheard material, I think it would have been smarter to create at least one for one of the new editions. Plus, they also released animated audios for every original Thriller track, which is weird, as these are already available on YouTube, which means they already uploaded them twice, and the animation itself is incredibly mediocre, looks like the typical poor effects any YouTuber under 1,000 subscribers like me would use. They can definitely do better than this. I mean, just for comparison, look at the beautiful visualizers made to accompany the release of George Michael's posthumous older deluxe edition, and now take a look at what was published just a few days ago. And we're talking about the same damn label. Another additional release alongside the album were the official 4K remasters of the Thriller and Beatit music videos, which were absolutely beautiful, I might say. I almost shed a tear after finally watching the greatest music videos of all time in high quality. But it's unfortunate that only these 2 were remastered, and not the music video for Michael's most popular song, Billie Jean. I honestly don't know the reason behind that. It might as well be that the 4K remaster of that one is more expensive than the other 2, but I still think it would have been better to have all the Thriller era music videos remastered at the same time alongside the release of the anniversary edition. And finally, a documentary about the entire Thriller era concerts, events and sessions was also announced and is already premiering in just a few weeks in a varied amount of festivals around the world. Look, a Thriller documentary seems a bit redundant to me, as I could already think of 100 different documentaries I've already seen about it, but if done right, like the Bad or Offthewall documentaries released in the respective anniversary editions, it could be a great release. We just have to hope that they take their time on it and it won't be a rushed release, unlike pretty much the entire Thriller 40 album. Because yes, if I had to describe the album with only one word, I would use rushed. The Michael Jackson estate didn't care enough to create a decent cover art, a fancy track list, and not this bullshit, or just to include a bit more than just 2 new songs after years and years of nothing. This can't even be considered as a cash grab made only for the charts and sales, because they didn't even promote it well. When they told the fandom through their website that they would eventually come back strong with new releases, this was absolutely the level of mediocrity that I was expecting. Let's just hope that the next confirmed releases, like the before mentioned documentary, the biopic, the reissue of Michael's entire music video catalog in 4K, and the anniversary editions of Dangerous in History, do not disappoint us as much as this newer release. And for now, this was all there was to say by me. What do you all think of Thriller 40? Don't forget to let me know. Until next time, bye. See you around.